Welcome to my review of Downwell, and this game is on many platforms, probably most platforms, but I played it on PS5 and Switch, and it was identical on both platforms as far as I could tell. So, regardless of where you play it, it should pretty much be the same thing. I will say that I was using a modded joystick most of the time while working on this, so it took me probably around 18 hours to beat. But as soon as I switched to the analog stick and played the PS5 version, I beat that version within 3.5 hours of playing it. And that was because of all the practice I had on the Switch version, the 15 hours or so of practice. But also because analog stick, you get a lot more precision in your movement with the analog stick for this game. I guess this game does use the full scope of, analog has kind of like infinite directions. I guess it's actually used in this game. It seems like a 2D simple game that you could just play with a digital D-pad or a modded joystick, but I think the best way to play it would be with an analog stick, from my experience. So in this game, the goal is to get to the bottom of each stage, and you have shops along the way, and you have caves you enter to switch out your weapons and get various upgrades to your health. You only have one life, so health is very important, and every time you go in a cave, you will either get like a gun, like you'll get guns inside the caves, but if a gun has a heart around it, it'll give you health back. And if it has just a square around it, it gives you some more shots in your gun, permanent upgrades to your shots. And the more shots you have, the longer you can stay airborne. So that's a huge mechanic in the game. And the game is extremely well balanced around these mechanics. Like the way it introduces, gradual changes. Like each of the 4 worlds has different mechanics it introduces, but everything is just masterfully designed as far as the way everything is balanced. So every time you beat a stage, you can choose a upgrade for that run. It is a roguelite type of game, so it's all about that one run to try to beat the game. You have one life to beat the game. The full game, it took me around 12 minutes because I move at about twice the speed when I play it that I saw other players, but a successful run can take between, let's say, 12 and 25 minutes. It seems most people are playing over 20 minutes because they take their time more. But I like to just kind of bust through everything. I found that more in tune with my style. So you got these different styles of level. Here you see a water stage. Now the water stage has, you got to get these bubbles to keep your air up, or you can just move really fast before the air timer runs out and just beat the stages fast, which I did a lot of times. But the main thing to watch out for on this stage is you have these squids that come back down after you pass them. If you don't kill them, they will come back down and hit you often. So you really got to mentally keep track of where the squids were on the screen before you pass them. And things like that. And the game really does test your skill with landing on enemies. Every time you land on an enemy, it resets your guns. So that keeps you in the air even longer. And you add more charges and shots to your guns by collecting the weapon power-ups. You can also get this stuff inside shops that you can purchase items with the gems you collect. So it really is key to choose your upgrades wisely between stages, as they're permanent upgrades, for the actual run. But of course, if you die, then you lose everything. So you have to start the game over, obviously. But the runs only take between 12 and 25 minutes. Once you have a successful run, depending how fast you move. So here we're seeing the final boss, and you see there's a shop here where you can buy certain things. You can also buy max HP. There's also things that I explained in the tutorial, which I will link here. In the tutorial, I explain how all the upgrades work with upgrading your health permanently for the run. You can also pick from different styles. Arm spin style is the one I use to beat the game. You can pick boulder style. There's multiple different styles you can pick, which changes somewhat how the game plays too. So, that's something I go into more detail in the tutorial. But there is that. You unlock that as you play the game more with XP. You'll unlock a few different styles. And you also get color swaps to change the colors, which is less important. The final boss is a nice challenge. It's a real nice climax in the game where it tests your platforming skills in all the 4 different worlds. It mixes through all the 4 different worlds as you're fighting the boss. You go through all the worlds again briefly. So there's basically 4 phases to the fight. And it really does test your skill with those different elements in each stage. And it's a super addictive fucking game. I really enjoyed it. Every run was exciting because it's randomly generated, so the layouts of the stages are always different. Though you do learn the basics of each world. So for each world, it has certain rules it follows and certain types of enemies and things that you will learn. And you'll be able to move fast even though it's randomly generated. You will be able to move fast through the areas once you get used to the mechanics of the game. But it really tests your platforming skills, and it's a very challenging game, to complete a run. Though I think I would have done it a lot faster, like I said, if I would have stuck with an analog stick in the beginning. So I do recommend doing that. And, check out my tutorial for all the details on how to upgrade your health and, the path I took, everything I did to beat the game. I went in a lot of detail about that. And I'm probably going to attempt the hard mode at some point. After you beat the game once, it unlocks hard mode. So when you play the game again, you'll be on hard mode. So it's got some replay with that. But aside from that, the game is all about just beating it. That's all it offers. It's just a game where you have to make it through 4 worlds, with randomly generated layouts. But of course, there's the same enemy types and things on each world, but they're all randomly mixed around. So, it'll really test your skill and like improvising in the moment, especially if you played fast like I did. If you try to speed through it, you can play it at a slower pace though too. That's always a possibility. So the game gives you options as far as your play style. You don't have to rush through everything. I found it beneficial for one because it's more in line with my play style to move fast through shit, and 2, you can complete more runs in the same amount of time. So if I have a lot of failed attempts, I can complete maybe 4 or 5 failed attempts, in an hour, as opposed to maybe 3 attempts or something. If I was playing it real slow and carefully. So I really did like speeding through it. But yeah, great fucking game. I couldn't really point out any real flaws with the game, It was one of those games. It's my favorite roguelike that I played, including like Shovel Knight Dig, Road Redemption, which was a Road Rash style roguelike game. Really fun game. I mean, there's been a lot of great ones lately. I've been getting into them more. So far, this is definitely at the top of my list for these type of games. And I'm going to be reviewing it for, the type of game it is. An old style game and also a roguelike type of game. Or roguelite as they're called. And for me, I'd probably give this a 9.5 out of 10. Like, I feel like this is like up at the top tier for these kind of games. It looks real simple, but it's super addictive, super well designed. Everything in the game is just super well designed as far as, the way you bounce off the enemies, the way you have to descend, and how everything is laid out. Which is kind of even hard for me to break down exactly why it feels so good, but the game is just really, really fucking well executed. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.